Zach Leach here from Hoop Lab. We have a special guest all the way from Connecticut. We have Jack Button, one of the skills trainers up in Connecticut at Revolution Basketball Training, RBT. Jack, welcome, man. Give us a little intro, a little bit of a background on who you are, maybe some basketball experience, and how you got involved in skill enhancement training at RBT.
My name is Jack Button. I'm 22 from Connecticut. Got involved with Revolution, wanted to be back around the game and kind of help kids and players achieve the skills that they want to achieve, especially with the skill enhancement part of basketball. I think it's honestly a little bit overlooked, but once you're in it and you know what you're doing, you can just see the progress through the roof.
Overlooked is a good thing because not a lot of people take time to maybe understand it fully, and basketball is only supposed to be this way, but when you have something new, so a lot of times people don't like new things.
The game is evolving.
The game is definitely evolving. Tell us a little bit why you made the trip down to New Jersey from Connecticut.
So down here at Hoop Lab, New Jersey, you guys are strictly skill enhancement, not watered down. The amount of detail that goes into it, I just wanted to see it firsthand.
And so with your trip down, what were the expectations other than seeing it firsthand? What were you trying to learn, gain, maybe take back with you, maybe to share to the other trainers there? Give us a little bit expectations on that.
Yep, so the format of how you guys train is a little bit different than we do. The amount of detail that goes into what you guys are actually trying to get across. If someone isn't getting a skill at first, we'll stay on that skill until we get it. And especially like the videos, you'd see yourself on video if you're not getting it. You know, it's a lot different than someone telling you, hey, you didn't do that right. Rather than, okay, let's take a look at why you didn't do it right. You're looking at a video of yourself. That foot's not in the right place. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. And a lot of hands-on, right? So especially with you, we'll talk a little bit about this later on, but we were doing a particular set of footwork and you couldn't really feel your feet or feel your hips. And that's where we say you have either foot numbness or body numbness. So you're moving and you don't even feel it, right? So being more hands-on of maybe placing your foot or holding your shirt or dropping your hips, you can actually feel it. You're seeing it is definitely helpful, but now you actually are being forced to stay in one spot. I think that definitely helped you a lot as well.
Oh, 100%.
Describe a little bit of challenges you face. You're one of the trainers up at RBT in Connecticut. Even before you came down here and learned, describe some of the challenges you faced during your time training at RBT.
A couple challenges that I faced. One for sure was if we were trying to learn a new skill and the athlete just wasn't getting it, I would move on. I would move on or make it easier so that it was something that they could do so they could gain a little bit more confidence. But now after being down here and especially firsthand, right, that footwork was pretty hard, I wasn't getting it, we didn't move on. We stayed on it. You pulled a little rabbit out of the hat, a couple of tricks of the trade. But yeah, that's definitely a challenge that I face if I have an idea going into a training session and the athlete or athletes aren't getting it, I would move on or go to something different that they obviously would get.
Yeah, and you're talking about moving on within the session and not instead of staying on it. And that's one thing, especially if one athlete is not getting it right side, right? If you go to the left side, they might have a better understanding or they might be missing a key thing that they're doing on the right side. So even though that we're hammering out the right side, we'll go to the left side real quick. They might be able to learn it because maybe that's their non-dominant side, so it's easy to teach. So once they teach their one side how to do it, then they'll go back and they're like, oh my gosh, I was missing this. I think that's being missed a lot because a lot of trainers maybe are not patient with players. They don't have the knowledge or they don't have the way to break it down of telling them how it's done. That is definitely a challenge that you face, but I also think a lot of other trainers face that as well. With you coming down here, what did you learn? What did you learn here to overcome those challenges when you go back to Connecticut?
I would say definitely keep it light. Don't get angry at the athlete if they're not getting it right. Don't try to push them too hard. Try to learn who that athlete is as a person and talk to them how they would like to be talked to. So you got to learn how these kids play and how they receive information, and you got to explain it in that way.
And breaking it down with analogies. I think I use a lot of analogies. I used one today with a baseball player. I gave him a baseball analogy and it clicked in the basketball sense. So definitely, breaking it down and staying light, but also keeping it fun and engaging with the player. So you learned quite a few terms, new terminology here at Hoop Lab. What is your take on terminology? How did you expand maybe your vocabulary, your dictionary, being down here learning from Hoop Lab?
So I would feel like a lot of other trainers would not use the terminology and they would just say, okay, you're going to cross over, you're going to step with your left foot, then your right foot, and then you're going to pick the ball up, go for your shot. Here, it's, we went out of that turn, pound, drop, hidden step, motion step, dribble step.
Look at this guy.
And it's just way more, it's easier to understand because you're not just stepping, you have a purpose for every step.
Right.
It's putting a name and a purpose on those steps.
And it gets you to identify what you need to look out for while you're on the run or maybe doing that particular drill. And I think a lot of trainers, they like to use action words. I know we were joking a little bit, like pow, bang, wow. A lot of action words are thrown around, and that's exciting. But when you can actually break down the terms and have the definitions behind the terms and the purpose of, maybe why this is called a hidden step and that's a motion step, and it starts to kind of unravel for the athlete and open up their brain a little bit more in their game for more options and just give them more things to work on.
I would also say it's easier to understand as the player what you're messing up on. So you could have your hidden step down, but you're messing up on your motion step.
Yeah.
If you don't have those terms, you're not going to know what you're really messing up on. It's just, I'm messing up where I put my right foot. Well, no, we're calling that a motion step. You're messing up on your motion step.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great way to put it. So I know you talked a little bit about this, but maybe talk to trainers out there. But what is the importance of videos, filming on phones, showing the athletes? And I want to get your take on actual breakdown of footwork. We did a lot of breakdown when you were here, meaning we're not always doing stuff on the move. We might just put an athlete in a single spot and get their timing down and into a shot. So they're not wasting a lot of energy, so they can actually focus on what the recipe or the skill stack is. So dive into the importance behind video first, filming and showing, and then we'll talk about the breakdowns.
I would say the video helps so much. It's just because you could have an athlete and you could tell them, hey, you're not getting it quite. You're not exactly getting what we want. Video, they can see for themselves what they're doing. And then we can slow it down in slow-mo and say, here, see your left foot? It's got to be up top, right? And I think it's just hard to get those across with just using your words, even if you have all the terminology and good analogies and everything. But the video, for them to see it for themselves, I think really helps.
Right. And I've always said, it's almost like watching game film, right? If we just had a game and I'm telling you something dude, I don't really remember, or give me the exact situation. So when you break down game film, you can slow it down, you can pause it, you can rewind. So I always say it's individual film study, right? So you can always break it down, slow it down, rewind, but it's more visual aid to help the athlete rather than always hearsay, right? So I'm right on with you. I think visual aid is huge, especially in today's era when, we have, a lot of handheld stuff, to us, and we like to see things. But how did the visual aid help you from you doing that little bound and keeping your hips in the same spot for your turn, pound, drop?
I would say, in particular, once you showed me that video, it kind of almost showed me what I was doing felt comfortable.
Yeah.
When you showed me the video, it was like, oh, that foot isn't supposed to be there. We have to get that hidden step down. So it's got to almost be uncomfortable before it's comfortable.
Yeah, you got to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the big one is when you were doing your turn, pound, drop, you were actually shifting rather than actually owning your space.
And go.
Right. And you said, it felt comfortable for you, but you actually, it took you a while to actually break through that mold, and then you started to feel it, and then your first words like, man, I feel a lot faster. right?
Yeah.
So, man, I feel more explosive because you're not lifting. So, you not being able to visually see that, right? You thought you were doing it right, right? You had that numbness feel. Then when, again, you saw it on video, I actually had some hand-on stuff where I was holding your shirt and your hips and driving your hips down. You guys started to feel it, and then, you took the training wheels off and you started to do it, and it was like a light bulb went off.
Yeah, it definitely helped just because I was doing it and it felt comfortable. Once you showed me the video, I go, oh, my foot really isn't supposed to do that. Like, my left foot is asleep right now. We need to get it driving forward.
Right, yeah, absolutely. How would you say the importance of the small breakdowns of maybe an actual skill or a skill stack is to a player? I know you went through it. I put you through some of it. But, I know a lot of people, they like to sweat. They like to get going and going and going. But when you do that a lot of times, you don't really get a chance to actually learn the proper mechanics, the techniques, the timing. So what's your take on the importance of how we did breakdowns here at Hoop Lab in a particular skill set with a footwork or skill stack?
Right. So I would just say when we were doing the breakdowns, like, I would almost make sure you were looking at me when I was doing it, because when you would say you got it wrong, I have to remember how that feels. How my body feels when I got it wrong.
Yeah.
When I got it right, it was like, okay, we need to repeat that. We need to repeat that until it's down, until I don't need to think about it. It's just muscle memory, and we're going right into it.
Absolutely. And it took you, and I think this is an important topic, but it took you like maybe 20 to 30 reps doing it wrong, before you actually started to get it. And I think the fun part is, even with you being a trainer, you get to feel the frustration of what your players feel, right? But the frustration didn't hold you back. You were eager to get it. You're eager to get it right. And if you gave up on that 29th time, you don't know what that 30th time you might have got it, right? But you might have not understood that. You might have not got that if you gave up. And I think that's a big teaching lesson to players. Like, you have to be able to work through the frustration before you get it. I think that's very important. I like that you touched on that. Let's go into skills training versus game enhancement training. Game enhancement training, a lot of game situation, coming off screens, catching on the wing, one dribble pull up. A lot of players do that. A lot of trainers do that already. But what is the importance now that you kind of seen skill enhancement training firsthand, and then you compare it to game enhancement training?
Right. So I would say with game enhancement training, I see a lot of videos. I see a lot of trainers just around the area and around the U.S. in general. They're putting players through game reenactments that those players are never going to really be involved in. So let's say, like, for instance, you have a forward taking up the ball, doing things that a point guard would do on their actual team. That's really not going to happen. In terms of skill enhancement, you're giving these players the chance to learn these skills and use them when they want to, right? So as long as they have those skills, they can choose when to use them, when to not use them. Mm-hmm. But as long as they have them, I think it's obviously a plus.
Absolutely. And we've always said, we want to give, it doesn't matter if you're a guard or you're center, we want to give you the skills and the abilities where if you are a center, you can handle the rock. You have great footwork. If you're a guard, we want you to have the skills and possess the abilities to be a post player, right? Because if there's a guard bringing the ball into the post, they become a post. If a post catches the ball at the top of the key, they become a guard like that. So you have to have the ability to possess all the skills and abilities where you can be positionless and you can play every position on the floor because you're not limited to a certain role, right? Tell us a little bit like how kind of Connecticut players, the players that you've been around in Connecticut, kind of take skill enhancement training or what you guys do. Tell us a little bit how those players maybe are see your guys' training, see the tools. How do they go through your training?
I would say what the players that train with us love the most is probably the challenge. I feel like a lot of those players, there's a lot of good players in Connecticut, and there's a lot of good players that train with us. They're very skilled, but with other trainings, everything would be a breeze. You know, they would just go through it, no problem. They come walking through the door, it's like we sit them with a tennis ball workout. They can't do it. You know, they're struggling with that tennis ball workout, and it kind of shows them. Little light bulb goes off. Go, oh, like these guys, they kind of know what they're onto.
Yeah.
They know something. I can't do this drill right now, and this girl who's been training with them for a couple years, she's got it down no problem. So I just think it's really cool, the challenge of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it's fun to see like the older players look at the younger players and they're like, how come the younger players can do that but I can't? You know what I'm saying? So give us a little experience on your training here at Hoop Lab.
So we start off that first hour when I hopped in. I don't think I got it in a whole hour. I don't think I got one rep right.
Now, you know what the beautiful part is you're not the only player to do that. There are a lot of players that don't get it in an hour. So that challenge is going to make them do it on their own, right? Or they come back and they want more and they do it on their own.
Yeah, when we were doing the turn pound drop, I wasn't used to that timing. I wasn't used to the hidden step right after. I was used to bounding, landing on my left, and extending that right. Yeah. But even, like you said earlier, in that second hour, when I finally started to get it, I was like, dude, I feel fast. I feel explosive. And that honestly just showed me firsthand. I was just like, wow, like this skill enhancement, it will change your game.
Yeah, absolutely. So now, what was your experience on learning, learning from me, learning from Gary, learning how we kind of run our sessions? You know, give us a little bit of experience on what you picked up.
I would definitely say the attitude going into training. It can't always be, it has to be this way. Every player is different. The footwork and the terminology that you guys use to get the point across, I think is just huge because it's so in detail. It's not just saying, okay, put your right foot above your left foot and then cross over. It's more like we're gonna get in our drop stance. That dribble has to be right on top of your right foot, and then now you can open up your hips. I just think the way you guys use the terminology makes it easier for players to understand if they're getting it right or if they're getting it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point too, because like I said, it's more than just a sweat workout. It's an education workout. You're teaching your body how to move. You're teaching your hands how to cooperate with each other. And it's just, like I said, it's more of a education process within training, giving you other skills and abilities on top of that. You know, what are some things you took away just from observing everything, maybe from the group classes to the private training to the parents? Give us a little bit of experience on just your overall observing, maybe our shooting lab.
I would say overall, the energy here is awesome. It is honestly something that you want to be around. You know, 10 a.m., we're saying, hey, you know, we're getting real excited. Every athlete, you guys know every athlete's name. The parents you guys are very close with, and it's almost like it's a little own community, which I just love. Everyone is so close. The kids know each other. And I would say you and Gary's, your energy just kind of translates to the athletes.
Yeah.
You know, they see you guys high energy. They're going to match that energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people that either see our training, on social media, they think it's like either too tough, too challenging, it's not game related, or it's just like, I've had a player that's like, oh, that looks easy. And then they do it and they're like, wow, that's not easy.
Mistaken.
Observing it, learning, and obviously being in the training, those three things right there, I think it's definitely opened up your mind, opened up your eyes to a whole nother world behind the skill enhancement training. So last one, give anybody out there, whether it's a trainer that maybe needs some more knowledge, players that need to go into skill enhancement training, parents out there that maybe don't understand the skill enhancement side. So give some recommendations out there for trainers first.
Trainers first?
Trainers first.
My boy Dylan Murray. You need to come down here, bro. You need to see what they're working with. It's awesome. It's really just eye-opening, the level of detail that goes into it. For players, I would say anyone that really wants to get a skill set that will push them and elevate their game. Like we said before, the game is evolving, and you got to keep up, I would say, as a player, especially players in middle school, high school right now. You know, these moves are being invented every day. There's stuff that you can just learn and bring into your game that you will really see translate to your game.
Give a recommendation to the parents that maybe are a little on the fence of skill enhancement training, but what would you tell the parents to maybe try skill enhancement training, or give them a little bit of a
push?
Them over the,
yeah. I would say to the parents that are on the fence about trying skill enhancement, you got to come try it and see how your kid reacts to the training. I have really yet to see a kid that came in brand new and didn't like the training. It might be hard, it might be challenging, but at the end of the day, they're learning something and they're figuring out what they can do and they can't do as a basketball player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a big one too, because, you know, everyone gets stuck in a routine, right? And they get comfortable in that routine. So when you get comfortable in, let's say, a game enhancement training workout, you know, how are you ever going to reach that next ceiling or that next level, right? If you're doing everything redundant. Redundant training is you know, it can be very boring, but also too, you can't elevate your game, right? And our checklist, over 700 skills and methods that we go through, you know, and we keep coming up with new ways to teach things. We keep studying the game, studying players. We keep coming up and evolving with the game. You know, we're always going to have another challenge, another way to teach things to our athletes, because as the game evolves, our training skill enhancement evolves. So yeah, man, any last thing that you want to maybe tell, you know, other trainers just outside of RBT to maybe come and learn, or players, or just any final thoughts?
I would say if you want to be successful in this training industry, you got to come see Zach. You got to come see Zach and Gary and just see what they do. You may do something similar, but it's not the same. You got to come see it firsthand and hop in the workout. Trust me, hop in the workout.
And get a firsthand taste of, let's see how well you could do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome, man. Well, Jack Button, I appreciate you being down here. Looking forward to many more visits like this and learning.
100%.
But yeah, man, we appreciate it. We're going to be, you know, follow Jack on Instagram. You know, give anybody out in Connecticut, work out with this guy. Visit RBT, Revolution Basketball Training, out in Connecticut. They have 2 locations that you can go to. But yeah, so skill enhancement training, Jack Button, we appreciate you coming down to Hoop Lab, learning from Gary and myself. We appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it, guys.
All right,
awesome.
Thank you.